Welcome, everybody. We're going to do another live stream, the Q&A call-in show. If you want to be reminded when I'm doing these the live shows with the call-in, feel free to text this number on the screen, 360-227-6362. Just text the word landscaping, and then anytime that I am hopping on live, you can go ahead and you'll get a message. So I don't spam you with stuff. I don't send you stuff every day or anything crazy like that. Just if there's anything crazy going on, or if I'm doing a live show, you can text, or you can get notified via text message. So, all right, but today is the call-in show. So let me switch this out. So if you would like to call in with a question, just call 361-733-3332. That is the live number for today. And I will be able to put you in here live on the phone. The phone calls will be the ones that are prioritized. So if you'd like to call in, those will be prioritized, but I will be in the chat. Shout to Mike Callahan. Can't wait for Summit. He's going to be speaking at least one time. And I know him and Dan Ralphs will be there. And looking forward to seeing everyone at Landscape Summit. If you have not got your tickets for Landscape Summit, make sure you do. MikeAndy.com/summit. Again, if you would like to book a call, I know sometimes it takes a while for everyone to get logged in here, but 361-733-3332. I'm taking calls today live. All right. Hello, Wright Brothers Tree Service. Let's go. Welcome from YouTube. We got Facebook coming in here. Very good. And then I should be able to add one more. Let's add Twitch in here. I haven't done anything to Twitch in ages. I don't know if I get, there you go. Okay, cool. All right. Awesome. A quick announcement too. I have created another YouTube channel separate just for lawn care tips. I know some people are like, I like the more lawn care only related content. You will want to subscribe to a channel I created called How to Start a Lawn Care Business. It's pretty straightforward. Anything lawn care related. I did a couple videos last week when I was out doing estimates and made them while I was out doing the estimates. I did 2 of them, and then I did a whole bunch at a dealership the other day, going through certain types of equipment, etc. So feel free to subscribe to that channel as well. All right, we got our first caller, and it is coming in from 551. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, everything's good.
Cool. What's up, brother?
So I got a quick question. Actually 2 short ones. So first, when you do the budgeted hours for the mowing, right? And let's say your guys are on P4P, does the entire budgeted hours for that job count? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble phrasing this, but for the, like how you do with the project, right? It'll be budgeted hours plus materials. So let's say the mowing price is $35.
Yep.
And the hourly rate is $70.
Yep.
Right. So you got 15 minutes to
30.
do it. Is that
30 minutes?
Yeah. So is that all included towards the budgeted hours for the guy?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I'm guessing you're talking about, like, do you include drive time and things like that? Is that what you're asking?
No, I understand that. It's just like, let's say we're paying the guys P4P on the mowing route.
Yep.
And you have budgeted hours like 30 minutes on the mowing, right?
Yep.
And so does all of that go towards the guys? You don't include anything else within that price?
Got it. Yeah, no, 100%. I hear what you're saying. So yeah, for mowing and for maintenance work, we consider all of the revenue labor revenue. So when we make our estimates,
you go. That's right.
Yeah, so we consider 100% of that revenue labor revenue. And some people could break it down further if you wanted to pull out a percentage of it for like dump costs, if you like have to dump clippings, for example.
Yeah.
But we just try to keep it really simple so the guys can see. We don't mind them seeing all of the actual costs to the customer, like what we're charging, because they know they can just do the math very quickly and say, okay, I'm making 30% or 33% of that revenue. And so in that case, labor revenue would equal total revenue because there's not material costs, estimate fees, dump fees, and other costs associated.
Exactly.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. That's exactly what I meant. And real quick, a second question is, so what would be your process to acquire business line of credit?
Say that last part. What kind of clients?
Uh, no, a business line of credit.
Oh, I got you. Do you already have a banking relationship with like a local credit union or something like that?
Yeah, I got all the basics, EIN, DUNS number. It's just what would be your first try to get trade lines or something like that?
Yeah, like, the first thing you want to do is really just go down and sit down with a banker. And honestly, like especially your business grows, bankers become more important. Like probably for my first 6 or 7 years in business, I didn't really think about who was doing my banking in terms of the person at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, you get with someone who's been at that bank for quite some time. They don't plan on going anywhere, and you can build up a relationship with them. And so, typically, at most banks, you're going to have to submit your financials every year to that person. And so, in terms of the first step is really like setting up the appointment at the bank and just being like, hey, I want to create a line of credit. My goal is to be able to expand my business over the course of the next several years. And every year when I come in and I submit my financials, I'm going to ask for an increase in my line of credit and just being upfront and honest with them what you're doing. And just keep in mind, they want to know why you're using it. They don't just want to be like, no use. Like what you want to typically say is like working capital. It's like, hey, I want to have this as sort of my security blanket. I want to have this in case there's an opportunity for expansion or acquisition, and just start building the relationship with that banker because it'll become very valuable down the road when you want to expand your line of credit. And I always say to everyone, like, the 1% origination fee that you might pay on that line of credit, uh, if you have $100,000 line of credit, they might make you pay $1,000. It's the cheapest form of insurance for your business because if something crazy happens, even if like there is a damage and you have to pay the deductible on the insurance claim, you know, even that might hurt you if you're just getting started. So being able to have a line of credit is super valuable. That being said, lines of credit are unsecured lines of credit, which typically means you don't have any collateral against them. Now, if you collateralize a line of credit, things like your trucks, your equipment, et cetera, means it's going to reduce the amount of risk associated with your line of credit. And therefore, the bank is going to give you better terms, lower interest rate, et cetera. They're probably going to even increase your line of credit a little higher because the risk is less. Just keep in mind, if something goes wrong, now they're going to come after your equipment. So I don't mind collateralizing my lines of credit because, if someone has to come after my equipment, there's bigger problems that I'm dealing with, and it typically allows me to give a little bit larger lines of credit. I've only pulled my lines of credit once, my business lines of credit, and that was during COVID when it first started. And it shut down everything, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and especially in the state I live in, Washington, where everyone was really freaking out. That was the one time I pulled all of my lines of credit and just created like a war chest of cash just in case, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And that is definitely that security blanket that you want to have in the case of having a lot of unsurety of where the market's going or what's happening in the political economic climate. So highly recommend everyone get a line of credit because when you need one most, they're not being handed out. When you don't need them, when you don't need a line of credit, is when you should go get one because banks love to lend to people that don't need the money. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the truth. And so, if I would have been going and trying to get a line of credit during March of 2020, there would have been no bueno. No one would have wanted to give me a line of credit. It was too risky. No one knew what was happening, especially to a gym, like an owner of a gym that was about to get closed for an indefinite amount of time. And so, when you need it most, they will not be able to open up the line of credit. Open it when you do not think you need it because that's when they're willing to offer it. Next caller's coming in from 717. Thanks for coming on. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. Hey, question for you. What is your process for raising rates on recurring customers for like mulching and maintenance and things like that? They kind of change each year. You know, customers will have us come in and we'll start with our normal mulching, and then they'll want us to add something and things like that. What is your process for like raising rates for the recurring customers, and how do you manage P for P on things like that? I'm just in the process of possibly trying to switch over to P for P, and I'm just trying to get my grasp on like how to manage the process of doing that.
Yeah. So when you say recurring services, you mean like an annual or like more like every 6 month piece of work, like mulching you mentioned, right? You're not talking about like mowing.
Correct, correct. So like mulch, most of our customers will call for mulching, shrub trimming, spring and fall cleanup, things like that, that are that are going to be every year that, I don't want to go out and rebid them every time to do them. So we just send our guys out and then we bill them for whatever services we provide.
And they've basically come to the grips. They're okay with the fact that you're just going to show up every 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, perform the service at that same price. And they're just kind of expecting that. Then you're not having to re-engage them for that service.
Correct.
Cool.
Yep.
So I would treat this like mowing. And that is like, look, it's the same thing goes for mowing. And that is like someone expects me to show up every week or every 2 weeks and mow their grass. So the only time I don't need to ask them to show up every single week. That's horrible. And so that's great what you've done. The fact that you're able to get away with something like mulching and where someone's not having to ask you every year for mulch and you're just doing it. That's awesome. I think you'd be surprised just how sticky that will be. Because no one wants to go find someone else to get on that kind of schedule again. And if they trust you enough for you to just come and do mulching or do bush trimming every 3 months or 12 months, especially the 12-month one, it tells me that they're not going to leave. And so I would just simply send them an email, be like, hey, from now on, these are the prices going forward. And I would get in the habit, if I was you, doing that every single spring, even if you don't raise their prices. Because then what this means is if assuming you're going to keep this business for a long time, if you're every single spring or every single winter, you send out their pricing of all their services for the year, they're just going to come to expect that. And then when you want to raise prices, you'll just change those numbers. And they will literally not bat an eye because they're just like every single year, like, hey, this is the renewal and no action is required on your side, just letting you know what the prices are for this upcoming season. And I think very, very few would ever get back to you if you changed those numbers and needed to raise prices. And then in terms of the P for P side, you have to ask yourself, when you raise those prices, is that going towards the budget hours or is that going towards more materials? Now, I'm going to assume you're probably raising rates on labor, but you're also raising rates on things like the cost of the mulch, the cost of dump fees, etc. And so you just want to figure out that math on each line item and what service. Are you raising the mulch by $200, which is, 4 hours at $50 an hour, or is $100 of that expense because the cost of mulch has gone up?
And mulch went up.
Exactly, right? So as long as you can figure that part out, when it comes to pay for performance, you'll just want to adjust your budget hours for that upcoming visit according to how much of that price increase is coming from labor versus coming from material markup.
Okay.
Awesome, man. Best of luck and congrats on P4P.
Sense.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right, next caller is coming from 773. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What can I do for you?
All right. So my question is, I just started my lawn care business 2 years ago. I started with one truck. Now I'm working 3 trucks, 6 people, including myself. And my question is, when I first started, I'm pretty sure we all start this way, but we don't have our contract in place. How do I introduce contracts into my current clients without them thinking that it's like when we all think contracts, we always think a year or that we have to stick to that contract. How do I introduce them, or how do I explain to them that now we're going to be working on a contract basis?
Cool. All right. So let's break this down. So in terms of the contracts, what services are you providing for them? Are you providing kind of like full service maintenance, like all different aspects of service around their property? Or are you just doing this for one specific service?
Most of our clients are just regular lawn mowing maintenance. We have weekly, we have bi-weekly, we have a couple commercial, but it's mostly all residential properties.
Okay, so mostly mowing.
So I'm trying to see if the contract. Yeah. So I actually just had a client call me, and she said that she doesn't think it's fair what we're charging her if we're just showing up to her property and being there for 15 minutes and charging her the amount that we're charging her. Mm-hmm. But would it really make her happy if a job that could take us 15 minutes, we just stay there at her property for an hour? Mm-hmm. And she just doesn't want to pay up what we invoice, So I'm trying to introduce contracts just so we could go ahead and have that money safe and not take a loss on it.
Okay, so that's the part I want to dig into. That was the next part I was going to ask. And that was why you're doing the contracts. So why do you think that having the contract is going to make her any more happy?
Probably a sense of security, you could say.
It gives you security.
Since
It gives you security because of a signature on that contract. But let me say this again. Like, how is this going to make the customer happy? She's still going to complain. She is still going to be unhappy, and I can promise you, she'll probably be more unhappy due to the fact that now she's going to feel locked in to a contract. The same way that when you call Comcast or Verizon or some other telecom company and they're like, "Oh no, you're in this contract for the next 6 months." How does that make you feel? Right? And so my thing is this: are you willing to enforce a $200 per month contract and take someone to court over it? Is it worth the publicity and what is going to be said on social media when she goes and tells everyone that you sue your clients because you were doing a bad job and you wouldn't let them get out of their contract? Because that's what's going to be said. And so I would be very careful. I think a lot of times we get a one-off complaint or someone canceling in the middle of the season and we're like, we need to do contracts, when in reality, it's not going to make the customer happy. Are you really going to take someone to court over that $200? And furthermore, are you going to hold them in a contract when they're unhappy and trying to make your life miserable because you're holding a contract over their head? Like, they're not going to treat your guys good. They're not going to tip them. They're not going to treat you nicely. They're not going to be doing anything good. They're going to leave you a bad review. And so in my personal opinion, contracts are not something that is needed in this industry. I'm a big fan of having in some markets level billing, like where if you want to help your cash flow, like, hey, every month of the year, we have all these different services, but then we have the same monthly pricing year round. That works in some markets, and some markets very popular and almost the standard. But I personally don't think you're going to go take someone to court. And I don't think you should, because it honestly is going to hurt your brand image more than anything. And what it does more than anything is add friction to the sales process, because now you've got to explain to Mr. Jones before he gets the job accepted why he's got to put a signature on a one page of terms and conditions. And so that would be my only apprehension. And what's your response to that?
Well, my response, basically, we had a couple losses just because we try to trust our clients and we try to just go ahead with the word of mouth. But I'm currently working with jobbers, so once the service is made, we go out and we send the invoice.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes there's clients that wait 2 services, 3 services, 4 services, and then once we get to that 5th service, we never hear back from them. So we're trying to trust that client, but if we can't trust them, how do I prevent that loss?
Yeah, totally. So I think this is more of a billing and invoicing issue in terms of what you're trying to solve for. And I think a lot of times people will jump to contracts as the solution when it adds friction to the relationship, it complicates customer service, and I've just not seen it work really well when it comes to sales. So what it sounds like to me, though, is you should probably require a credit card on file that's pre-authorized before starting service. So like literally starting on Wednesday at Copilot, we're having this feature. I don't know if Jobber has this or not, but that is the ability that before someone accepts an estimate, they are required to put a card on file. And then the week after that, we're working on the one where in doing so, they have to pay a deposit based upon the threshold of that estimate value. And so I'm a big fan of that. I'm having a pre-authorized credit card, because like when you put the card information in, Stripe can test it and see if is this a valid card number. And so I would recommend doing that, or switching your billing to where you bill every single time, if that's a big concern to you. I would also say that I find too many people will make business decisions based upon 1 or 2 or 3 customers doing something in the same week and be like, oh my word, everyone's doing it. It's like, look, you have 300 customers. You're growing really quickly. You've gone from 1 person to 3 people in the past couple of years. Like, slow down a little bit and realize that you fluked out in that you got 1, 2, 3 people cancel or something like that. This time of year is very common. Try not to overreact. That being said, if it's always happening, and when I say always, I mean like that's happening every single week, then you might want to change your billing requirements. And I would probably say require a card on file before they get started for service, and or bill more frequently. And instead of doing those 4 visits and then billing them on the 5th one, you would be billing them every single week. Next call is coming in from 517. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. This is Cody from Lansing area in Michigan. I am just calling because last year I had like 4 or 5 snow plowing customers, and I was just kind of learning how to, do snow plowing. It was the first time I ever did it.
Mhm.
So I kind of got like a little residential snow contract set up. I wanted to get something that was a little scalable so I could scale it this year. I'm wondering if that's even necessary to have a residential snow contract. It's really just liability. There's no like terms as far as we start this date and we end this date. We do say in there we won't do it past those dates, but we're not locked in anything. In the contract, it just says email us or call us, like if you want to get out of this.
Mhm.
So,
Totally.
but it was done by a lawyer and everything. It's done well. I'm not. Tyler, the franchisee from Washington, he was telling me that it's just too much friction in the sales process for a residential contract, and then it's not necessary. But what I'm concerned about is when we have hundreds of them potentially 5+ years down the road, and I'm not the one that's on the property. Is that too much risk to not have a liability contract up?
Yeah, like I would say the difference somewhat in Washington, like where he's at and like where I'm at, is when it snows here, it's like twice a year maybe, and people are literally so desperate for someone to come show up at their property, they will literally pay anything. But we just don't get frequent enough snow for most people to do snow plowing. So it's not as common to do contracts. No one here thinks about snow until there's a foot of snow outside. That's just how it rolls around here. However, I know there are markets, and if you're in Michigan, this is definitely true, and that is people are setting up snow plowing in August, September, and October. And so contracts are much more common because if you know it's going to snow 10 times or thereabouts throughout the year, you want to make sure that you have someone scheduled to come and do your service on your property. So residential in Washington contracts, literally no one even thinks about until there's snow on the ground. Can guarantee that. So I would say in terms of the contract itself, though, don't overthink it. I would literally go into ChatGPT and I would ask for a residential snow plowing contract, because the main thing you're looking for is locking in the frequency and the trigger, as well as clearing yourself of liability. Those are the 2 major things. And I would make it really simple. Don't overthink it, because the more terms you add, the less likelihood they're going to actually read it, and the more they may potentially get scared away. Now, again, though, in Michigan, they're going to be used to contracts for snow. And so I would say in your market, it's not a bad idea to have one, but don't overthink it. Don't make it a page long. You don't need to buy a contract. You can go in ChatGPT and ask for a residential snow plowing contract. It'll give you a good 3 or 4 terms that you can get printed off, put your letterhead on it, and get that signed by customers. I wouldn't overthink it too much.
Okay, gotcha. And then last thing real quick, I have a little condo association. It's in the back of a neighborhood. There's probably like 25, 30 houses throughout the neighborhood, just one kind of circle. And in the back, there's a condo area, and we do the mowing for just the condo area, not the whole neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But the manager of the condo association just reached out, and they want us to give them an estimate for plowing the entire neighborhood and the condo parking lot. And I only have the experience of doing 4 or 5 driveways. I talked to Tyler about this. He told me I should do it for the experience, and just to jump into it, because I'm the one that would be plowing it, so I can learn it myself and figure it out, and it would be good for me to know. But I'm more concerned about, I have no idea how to price it. I also have no idea where to push snow, like the actual logistics of doing the job. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Do you have any advice, like how I can figure these things out quickly?
Totally. I think in terms of like the logistics of like where to pile snow, et cetera, I think a lot of these questions can be answered on YouTube. Where to pile snow for, snow plowing contracts. I know like, what's his name? Dirt Monkey has some great videos on this. There's other people that do lots of snow plowing that will show you exactly where to pile it. They'll do the schematics from the aerial and show you where to pile snow. In terms of whether or not you should do this kind of job, you should make sure you are confident on the budgeted hours. Do not bid a job that you could lose your shirt on, or feel you got to go into this like, look, I know what I need to charge for this job to break even. If I can't make that, I'm not doing it, even if it's going to mean losing out on this experience. Just realize that if you're young, you're growing your business, there's a lot of other opportunities to go have experience and make money doing it. So don't feel like pressured that you need to go lose money on a job. That being said, when it comes to commercial, you do want to take a little more time in your contract. Again, I truly believe ChatGPT will make a plenty fine, decent commercial snowplowing contract. But the thing is, you're going to have a lot more liability due to the fact that, especially if you're plowing someone the streets, every state is different, but liability is going to be very different when you're plowing a street versus a residential driveway in most states. So talk to your insurance person, because you just might be doubling or tripling your general liability policy by going on the street versus going on someone's driveway. And you want to make sure that you also are covered in terms of the language of you're not responsible for the cars on the side of the driveway. You're not responsible, and just name and list off every piece of property you can possibly think of on that contract that you're not going to be responsible for, because that's my bigger apprehension, is the matter of you getting into something you're not experienced at. Hey, we all have to start there somewhere. YouTube University has to train everybody at some point in time if you're getting started. However, I don't want you to lose your shirt over something simply because you're not covered from a legal standpoint and an insurance perspective. So check with your insurance, as well as make sure that contract is buttoned down when it comes to your liability. Next caller is from 573. Oh, I think I've already talked to you today. How's it going?
Hey, going pretty good. Mike, this is Joshua with Drama Lawn Care. I don't know that we've talked before.
Oh, I think you called in.
Got a question for you on...
Did it drop your call or something like that?
Yes, it did.
Okay,
yes,
that's right. Okay, gotcha. It said last call today, so you're good. Go for it.
Okay. No, I apologize. So, got a question for you on raising prices. I became painfully aware that we were shooting for $60 per man hour when mowing, but what I didn't take into consideration is that probably about 20% of our day is non-productive, and that puts us down at about $48 per man hour over an 8-9 hour day, and that's not going to work. So we're going to have to raise prices on a lot of our customers, and I was wondering, if we shoot for $80 per man hour on property, that would average out to about $60 per man hour throughout the day. We're going to have to raise some, customers' prices by 20 to 30%. Is that acceptable? How would you do that?
Well, no one wants their prices.
2 raises
Yeah, no one wants their prices to be raised. So acceptable to the customer, no.
Right.
But the bottom line is you got to stay in business, and
Right.
And the ideal customer wants you to stay in business because they don't want to go be figuring out who's going to mow their lawn every single year, right? And so the ideal customer is willing to pay and happy to pay more to make sure that you are taken care of and that they don't have to keep finding contractors. And so I don't know if you watched the video I posted yesterday on my main channel, but we raised prices on almost 300 customers. And, in the video, I said we lost a few. I think ultimately, I think we ended up losing about 10 customers, and then they dropped about 15 more. But literally, if you do it right and you have a customer base that is solid and they like your service, if you can raise prices at a time when everyone else is either really booked out or is really hard to find employees. So for example, if the drought right now is actually a really good time to raise prices because most contractors can't get anyone to come to work. And so they aren't taking new customers. So a great time to raise prices is during that time. But honestly, if you're hitting capacity, like all your guys are busy, all your trucks are every single day, and every week you're getting a couple more clients, you should absolutely, if you're hitting that capacity limit, raise prices. So like right now, what I would say is, could you take on 20 more customers without having to buy more trucks or hire more people, or are you kind of at capacity right now?
We're at capacity with our trucks, not at capacity with our workers. I'm fortunate enough to have almost extra worker. We're scrambling to keep him busy, which is, I know, kind of rare in our industry, but I'm very fortunate on that. Our trucks are a limiting capacity, our limiting factor in this. But, we have 2 trucks on the road, and when they're not generating the income that they should, we got to figure something out.
Got it. So I think that what you're probably facing then in the back of your mind is, what if I raise these prices? I lose 15% of my customers, and I'm already not really having enough work for my guys. So this is how I would look at this: is just for your peace of mind, maybe take 1/3 of your customers and raise prices on them. I think you'll be shocked at how few cancel. That's going to solve your profitability problem. And it'll also unlock the ability to go get financing on another truck. Because if that's your capacity, I'll talk about this at conference, but you got to find what is the bottleneck of the business. And right now, the bottleneck for your growth is, number one, is getting more work for your crew. However, it sounds like you can't do that because you got the truck capacity limit. And so if you're able to unlock, how many mowing customers do you have right now?
About 100 mowing customers. Some of those are, HOAs with 29 homes, but we just consider that one customer. So yeah, 100 customers.
So yeah. I would bet that you're going to bring an extra $3,000 to $4,000 per month in profit to the bottom line if you raise prices across the board by 20 to 30%, like easily, probably more. And what you should do is track that. Like take all of your per cut pricing for your 100 customers, right? And then put what you're going to raise them to. At the bottom, you're going to have how much you're charging per cut across the whole board, and then what your new pricing is going to be in terms of new per cut. And I think that number is going to be a couple $1,000s per cut in difference of price. Now, once you do that, that's going to be what you need to convince yourself that you can go afford to buy another truck. And by having that other truck, it's going to unlock more capacity for you. Then if you don't have enough work, you're going to spend that extra profit on marketing and fill your schedule. So let's say you have $4,000 extra per month in profit by doing this price increase. And you know that from doing the math, you're going to go spend $500 a month on getting a good truck. Get a payment. I don't care. Whether you have cash to do that. If so, great. If not, just go get payment. You now know you can afford it because you have $4,000 extra in profit. And honestly, you're probably going to make more than $4,000 in profit because the customers who leave are the ones that are causing the most pain anyways and are already underpriced. And so we're now at 3,500. That 3,500 is now what you're going to deploy, maybe half of it or 1,000 of it towards marketing to fill the schedule and replace the customers you potentially might lose from the price increase, as well as keep your current one guy that isn't as busy, fill up his schedule as well.
Okay, that makes sense. One other question with that whole raising prices and trying to meet our quota of $60 per man hour. We have switched a lot of our jobs out of push mowing jobs to walk behind mower jobs, kind of the same concept. But some of our customers are complaining about that, and they want to go back to push mowing. We are on the fence. My workers don't like push mowing. They'd rather walk behind a self-powered mower than push a mower. Is there any consideration I should give to that? I mean, I want to keep my employees happy. Push mowing pays well, but we have spent money on equipment that I hate to have sitting in the shop while we're pushing lawns.
Are your guys on pay for performance?
What's your sage advice on that?
Are your guys on P for P?
They are not.
Okay.
They are not. It's something I've been pushing them towards, and they keep saying, no, I want hourly. And so I tried breaking it down to them and saying, hey, you'll make more money. They want the certainty of knowing that if they work, this is what they're going to get paid. Even though I've guaranteed them, you will get more. They're good fellas.
Yeah.
I am positive they'll make more money.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's a little tough because what I was going to say is if they're on P for P, it's like, hey guys, we're going to raise these prices on these push mowing customers by 30%. So you're going to make 30% more money on these jobs, which, equates to going from, $25 an hour to 30 plus an hour. And we know it's painful and you don't like it, but we're willing to raise them even more if we need to. We want to make sure you guys are on the same page though before we do this. When it's not P for P, I would offer a raise and make the change with that, right? So again, if you know you're raising prices, you can afford a little extra there, right? So, maybe at 4,500 is going for that truck. Maybe allocate another $1,500 of that towards a raise for the guys. But what you're going to do then is say, hey guys, we're going to raise wages because we need to add some push mowing customers back in here. And I know you guys don't like that. And I know it's painful, but we're going to raise the prices to customers to afford a raise for all of you. That's how I would word that, and make sure you talk to them first and they get the buy-in. Cause I believe if you say, hey guys, we're going to be able to afford $2 more per hour for everyone on the crew. If we can just do all these mowing customers with the push mower now. I know it's not fun, but we can afford $2 more per hour. And you're going to go raise prices to not only those push mowing customers, but everyone in general, and be able to cover that cost.
That makes perfect sense.
But I would
So,
talk to your guys
okay,
because it's
cool.
harder
Thank you
to
very
find. It's harder to find those guys that are like that than it is to find another customer. So if you have 10 or 15 customers, you're going to lose because of the push mowing thing. I would rather lose them than lose your solid crew. Like sounds like you got those. So I would talk to your guys first,
Yeah.
get them on board, and I think most people, the guys, they'd be willing to take an extra $200 a paycheck in exchange for pushing some of the lawns with a push mower.
Okay. That makes sense.
Cool.
Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
You got it, brother. Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
one. Absolutely. All right. Next caller is coming in from 774. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. 774. You might be.
Am I on?
Yep. Now you're on. What's up?
Hey, I was just wondering. So we charge cards weekly for our lawn mowing services, and I was just wondering about how many cuts would you go for a card that gets declined?
I think if I was charging weekly, I would change my thought process a bit, right? So for us, when we usually charge monthly, I'm okay with it being a couple weeks, like for them to go through the automation process of getting a new card on file. I'm also in the state where like cash flow isn't as important to me. I'm more trying to keep them throughout the drought seasons. I don't want to be hitting their card 4 or 5 times a month. So that being said, if I was to go to weekly, I would be much more cutthroat because I do not want multiple bills stacking up on top of each other. As soon as you get like 2 and 3 invoices unpaid on someone's account, almost all the time they'll cancel. And so I would be probably more cutthroat with it. I'd probably make an automation sequence that like after, it gets declined, it notifies them, and like every 2 days for like the next 6 days, it's notifying them. So they get like 3 notifications, and then it would notify you if they haven't updated their credit card by the time, a week rolls around. I'd be probably very cutthroat with it, maybe letting one more go through. But I know most people who do weekly, the big reason is for cash flow. And if that's your reason, you should cut people off as soon as possible if they're not paying, and just train your customers like, hey, you don't not pay us. And if you don't, we're not showing up next week. And for someone who does accidentally do that, now all of a sudden their lawn's, overgrown because they forgot to pay you. And, they will never forget again if they really want your service.
Right. Yeah, we have maybe about 3 or 4 people that frequently it gets declined, but if you try it on Friday, it'll go through. Mm-hmm. But some of them then, it goes a couple of weeks, and it's like, how much long, how much longer do you really go? But all right, I appreciate that.
Which
Thank
card
you.
processor do you use?
It's through Jobber, so it is.
Jobber payments.
Stripe?
Yeah, they do Jobber payments.
Jobber payments.
Yeah. So in Stripe, for example, you can set it up and actually charge people who, like, if their card gets declined, you actually go in there, like, retry it automatically, which is kind of cool. But just a thought. I think if you create I know Jobber doesn't have automations, but like you could just make sure you. Let me think for a second. Because I know they have invoice follow-up, right? Like reminding someone if you have an overdue invoice.
They do. Yep.
Can you make your invoice due upon receipt so that way the follow-ups start like the day after the card's declined?
That's a good idea. Because I think that's actually a good idea. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I would try that. We've always found when someone's due upon receipt, they pay way faster, simply because the moment they get that invoice, if it's not paid, it says overdue. So cool. We got some questions coming in. I want to get into using Google Ads to grab hot customers. Is it best to use an agency or get best return on investment? Agencies are fine. I like to learn from agencies, see what they're doing. But just remember, if they're going to cost $500 a month and you want to put an ad spend of $500 a month, they better be beating your cost per click by 50%. Otherwise, you might as well just do it by yourself. So I'm a big believer in learning from agencies. But ultimately, again, if they plus their cost, your ad spend plus their cost is not able to beat what you would be doing it otherwise by yourself, then it just makes more sense to do it yourself, unless you want to save yourself time. Wisetack integration progress report, literally any day. It's a security thing that's getting ironed out, and I'm hoping within a week or two, but I've been hoping that for the past month and a half. So I know we have to have it done by November, just because of a couple things, but it could literally be any day that is pushed through, and then it'll show up on a Wednesday when we release on Copilot for features. Just bought my tickets on Airbnb yesterday. Cody from Lansing, Michigan. Streamline Lawn Care. Let's go, Cody. MikeAndes.com/summit. Buy your tickets today for Landscape Summit. Is the How to Start a Lawn Care Business run by AI? No, it is not run by AI. Terrell and the team cuts up these shows as well as stuff I make specifically just for lawn care and related. So, how do you charge for weed eating? I'm kind of sort of figured out how to charge for mowing. I would charge it the exact same way because you're ultimately selling the same thing, and that's time. Is it best to charge by the hour on weed trimming? If so, how much do you charge? No, we charge still budget hours. Actually, this is a great plug. How to Start a Lawn Care Business, the YouTube channel. I made a video of me out in the field doing an estimate for weed trimming, as you call it, or weed pulling. And I talked this whole part through. So feel free to look that up on the other channel. I'm actually in the field doing an estimate. I have an established company with 2 guys running most of the mowing and whatnot. I really want to move out of my area, but my company is doing great. What is doing great? Numbers. What are my options? You could sell, or you could build the business to the point where it could run by itself. It's a little more difficult because you probably, I don't know what your size is. It sounds like how many? Oh, 2 guys. 1 guy, 2 guys. That's tough, right? Like, because at that size, you're going to be hiring someone that is not full-time manager, like general manager or sales. It's going to be someone who's really out in the field, so like a working GM. But you're also at the size where they're getting quite a few calls. There's a lot of admin work, running payroll, etc. And there might not be enough meat on the bone for you to go leave and make it profitable. That being said, I think if you took 16 to 18 months and really focused on optimization and increasing prices to make it more profitable, let's say right now you're doing $250,000 in annual revenue. If you can figure out how to make that go from 250 to 300 without increasing any of your costs and make it $50,000 more profitable, that $50,000 now gets deployed against a working GM. But again, you're probably not making that much profit right now. I'm just going to guess. I'm just guessing. Let's say you aren't. It's going to take you a year and a half to raise prices, optimize your route, cut out customers you don't want, simplify services, create systems so that you can hand that off. Regarding the raising costs, do you believe easing regular at a lower percentage or once yearly at higher? I don't like to do it a lot, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm really looking at my capacity, and if I'm at capacity in terms of trucks and at capacity with my laborers, I'm raising prices regardless of anything else. So whether I do that 5 times a year because I'm just like constantly getting new customers and I don't have any more trucks or employees, or if that is happening once every 3 years, it doesn't really matter. That's why I'm a big fan. Like, grow to capacity, raise prices. Keep raising prices until you raise capacity. How can I grow to get commercial clients? I have some videos online. Feel free to look at that. The call-in numbers in the top right-hand corner. Just got my ticket for Summit. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. What good charge for regular lot? Just really depends on your square footage and your area. You started this year in business. Thanks, Mike, for the YouTube videos. Got it. If you want to sell your business, I think having contracts probably adds a lot of value to the business buyer. Again, if they're willing to go enforce 400 residential contracts in court, then it's valuable. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, we don't have contracts. We do encourage our customers to stay with us year round. We like to maintain a full schedule for our employees, and we reserve a spot for you for the next year. If you decide to cancel, that's okay, but just know we won't prioritize you for the start of the next season. Yep. I love it. Yeah, we don't have contracts but it's similar verbiage to what we used in the early spring. When we're selling, we use it as a selling feature. And it's like, hey, we only have so many spots available. You better get on because we can't guarantee later in the year we're going to have any spots available. I'm looking into swapping to both Copilot and the P4P software over the winter. I'm currently tracking P4P manually. I'm just curious how the clock in and clock out process works when using the software. You don't need to use Copilot in order to use P4P. If you're doing P4P now by manually, I would do P4P right away. Whether or not you switch to Copilot in the future, it will be nice when they get integrated, and we're working on the integration right now. So that way, if someone clocks into Copilot, it automatically creates a time card inside of P4P. And then it also brings in like things like budget hours and rate and everything across. So there's no double entry. But in terms of the clock in and clock out process, there's a mobile app. And for P4P, they clock in and out on there. And we have what we call 3D notifications or data-driven decisions that use the data from the app and tells the employee how they can improve, tells them who on the team they should kind of get mentored by. It encourages them when they're not doing very well in projects or they fall behind in efficiency. It encourages them when they get above base pay for their first paycheck. It's kind of like what you want to say sometimes, but don't want to as a manager, and you can't. The app does that for you. And we're going to be integrating a whole bunch of really cool gamification side of things, and like where they can get tokens and rewards for things like being on time, etc. in the P4P app. I have enjoyed your business advice. I'm trying to apply the principles in the tree care industry. I find most of the things are interchangeable, but some are not. The biggest difference is the financial barrier to entrance into this industry. Yep. Almost every single business that sells any sort of labor can use 99% of what I talk about. But yeah, there's definitely a little more commitment in terms of certifications and financial upfront when it comes to tree service compared to mowing. Are there any all electric mowers, setups, etc. that you can recommend? Thoughts on it as a business, and is there demand for it? I think there's demand for it. I just don't think people are willing to pay a premium for it. There's very few unless they're municipalities and cities that are required to, or potentially like Fortune 500 companies that want to just like be able to say that we have electric mowers mowing our campus, and in universities, things like that. But I don't think there's a huge market for it yet in terms of people willing to pay extra. Like no one's willing to pay an extra dollar for it. And so until the cost of the equipment makes more sense, I'm not like jumping all over. Because guess what? If it's going to be the next thing, which I do believe it will be in 10, 20 years, I'll go down to the store and I'll go buy some. So why would I jump on now? I'll just be able to go buy it. It's not like software that takes years to build and I need to like get integrated and I need to understand and diagnose and debug things. It's like, if it's taking over the world, I will go down to my dealer and I'll go buy a bunch. So I'm not too concerned about electric mowers and like getting on board before everyone else does or anything like that. What's your opinion on paying someone $10K plus for a total rebrand of a business that's been established for 7 years and is well known in the local area? I would like to start in a location 40 miles down the road in a larger city. So far, we just have a name and logo, but no mascot or truck wraps, just signage on trailer. This is coming from someone who's very biased, like because I see design pretty easily. $10,000 for a rebrand when they're probably gonna give you a logo and some mock-ups for like your truck decals and your uniforms. Personally, I think that's crazy. But if you don't see any, like if you can't tell what color palettes work well together and like you can't make sense of what's going to look well on a design for a truck, etc., it might make sense. But I do not think $10,000 is required to do that. Personal opinion. And if you have a $10 million business, maybe you can make sense of that. I've just seen plenty of those businesses do their rebrands and they spend meetings and countless hours and tens of thousands of dollars. And like that could have been done in an hour with a designer for a couple $100. It really could have been. And honestly, if you have like a uniform provider, if you have a company that does decals for trucks, they will help you with the design. You're really just needing a logo and a color palette and fonts. If you have that, you can, a lot of times the person who makes your uniforms will help you design the uniforms. The person that does truck decals, they'll help you do those. So I would not worry about it too much. I think 10K is a little crazy unless you have money to burn. So how's the South Park? Good. Chandler's still working there. They're cranking along. I think he has 2 employees at least, man. I don't remember. How do you get people to pay with a credit card? What arguments or negotiating tactics do you use? Honestly, I don't think negotiation is something you want to use when it comes to requiring a credit card on file. So what we're doing is with Copilot is we're going to make an option for it to be required just to accept the estimate and make it just part of the process. Like it's just part of the process. It's like, oh, click accept on the estimate. Oh, card is required on file in order to accept the estimate. Great. Here's the form. Boom, fill it out. Bam, that's saved to their profile. Easy stuff. Easy peasy. I would not worry about negotiation tactics. People use their credit card for a lot of things. They have their card on file for the utilities and for their internet and for their garbage and all the other stuff. So I would just not overthink it, and I would get a card on file. Hey, Mike, have you ever had pushback from customers when they get a Stripe processing fee so their price is higher than the estimate? We don't do this. I don't recommend it. We do have the option inside of Copilot to charge the processing fees to the customer. And I know probably about 10 to 15% of users inside of Copilot do charge processing fees back to the customer. I personally don't recommend doing so. I just raise my prices and get them covered so they don't have to see it, and it's always the same price on their end. And there's not like weird numbers. But that's just me. I'd rather raise my prices by 10% and cover the cost of the 3% extra on processing fees. So we ended up signing up for Copilot, but realized we imported the wrong CRM. Did you know there us another one that's similar? Yeah, so we started copilotcrm.com. There is another site called Copilot. It is a CRM for like tech companies. It has a green logo. It looks very much like ChatGPT. It is unfortunate. And that's when November rolled around and ChatGPT came out, anything related to Copilot got like sucked up in terms of URLs and trademarks and all the rest of it. We already had Copilot CRM. So I know it's unfortunate. I apologize. This is what I would say. If you're looking for Copilot CRM, scroll down. You'll see my face. You'll see a lot of stuff to do with me on there. You'll see a note from me. You'll see videos about it. And as you sign up in the sign up process, like my videos are in there. It'll be very apparent. So yeah, sorry about that. A couple people have mentioned that it's another CRM. It has nothing to do with like home services. It's more for like tech side of things. Curtis, Mike, you've been an inspiration for my jump into the industry. First full year down, and we're showing awesome growth. You probably get this all the time, but when you first kicked off, what is something you know now that you wish you knew about then? I would say just how price elastic our customers are if you're able to keep them happy. So if you can track your attrition and just make sure you're not losing customers due to bad customer service, you'd be amazed at how much more you can raise your prices and be much more profitable. What are the chances you go on a run with me and Tyler and Marcus before Summit one morning? Probably not happening this Summit. Sorry. I have 8 keynotes, and I want to make them the best keynotes I've ever given, and I'm going to be testing several things on what works and what doesn't in my keynotes. And I feel obligated to make sure that 100% of my time is making sure that those 8 talks are the best ever. If we want to do a one-on-one with you, can you provide all the information we should have readily available to discuss? If you're going to do a one-on-one, you can go, I think it's mikeandes.com/coach. I'd recommend just calling in. I can answer your questions, but if it's personal, I understand if it's like you're doing an acquisition or something like it's a messy divorce or something, I'm happy to help. But you can go there and in terms of what you should bring as much as you can in terms of financials and lots of good questions written down and being prepared. That's probably when you're going to get your most out of it. I think I paused them for a while during the summer, but it's back available. I think I allow two a month now. What's the best way to go about raising your prices? Also, when raising prices, what is a good price increase percentage? Some people say raise your prices 10% until you lose 20% of your customers. I'm a big fan of raising prices based upon capacity. Who does your shirt? We have a couple franchisees at Augusta that do shirts and kind of all our swag. Do you think it's worthwhile to obtain a business loan given the current interest rates, or would it be better to wait for a few years? I'd rather do a line of credit and not use it in this environment. The credit rates are insane. It's a big reason why I'm selling my real estate to build the headquarter building, because the SBA is going to charge me 8 to 10% for interest. I don't want to be doing that on over $3 million. So yeah. Also, I've switched to Copilot from Java, and the software is awesome. Thanks again, Mike, for your genius software and advice. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Great show and great advice. Thanks for taking time to do it. Very helpful. We'll get a ticket summit. Get it today. Get it today. And if you can come to the hotel, that'll be very cool as well. It's pricey. I don't like it. But the Omni Hotel is really, really nice. If you can split a hotel with someone or whatever, being at the hotel is good, especially if you've never been to a conference or like you don't have a lot of networking, a lot of other people that in the industry. I would recommend staying at the hotel. I know it's pricey. I'm sorry. It's the only hotel I could get in all of Louisville for those couple days. So I would recommend being at the hotel, talking to people out in the hallways, talking to people outside of breakfast and dinners and lunches, etc. It's very, very valuable. 7 years in, Mike, we keep being grateful for your advice. Thank you from Florida. Awesome. All right, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend. I appreciate you all being here live. Thank you for the people that called in. You guys are always awesome calling in. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you do book your tickets, mikeandes.com/summit. My goal is to make these the best talks I've ever given in the next 5 weeks until conference. It's 6 weeks almost, but next week I'm traveling. to do another turnaround video, which you will see in a couple weeks. But I want to make these like my best presentations ever. I'm spending gobs amount of time on them this time. Usually I'm pretty good about fast on my feet, and like I can just go through my slides and kind of know what I'm going to talk about. In terms this year, I'm spending a lot of time. I'm going to spend basically the 5 weeks after next week's trip I'm going to spend every single day working on them. So I hope you can come, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I'll see you tomorrow. Sorry. I'll see you sometime soon. Maybe in a couple weeks, I'll do another live stream. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. Bye.